The audience was divided, half applauding, half booing, as former President Donald Trump took his seat at the Kennedy Center to watch Les Misérables, a musical about revolution and the fall of the ruling elite. The irony was too real. Just months after Trump orchestrated a dramatic conservative reshaping of the Kennedy Center's leadership, calling the institution too liberal, he returned not as a guest of the arts community, but as the president of the center's board. He had pushed for a so-called ideological correction of the historic cultural venue, removing long-serving board members and replacing them with his own allies. Those loyalists quickly voted Trump into the powerful leadership role. Now, here he was, watching a show about people rising up against oppression, while protests unfolded outside in U.S. cities over political grievances back home. The occasion for Trump's appearance was a glitzy fundraiser hosted at the Kennedy Center. He told press before showtime that donors had already raised $10 million, with ticket prices reportedly running as high as $2 million per seat, especially for those who wanted prime box seats near the former president. Reports indicated that many attendees were Trump world insiders, administration figures, and wealthy supporters. Trump seemed pleased to be there, telling Fox News Digital he was a fan of Les Misérables. "I love the songs," he said, "and I love the musical question." Some online commentators poked fun at the vague quote, speculating whether Trump had understood the story's pointed rebellion against entrenched power. Inside the theater, the tension rose as the house lights dimmed. The crowd erupted in a strange combination of applause and vocal disdain. One woman loudly yelled, "Convicted felon and rapist," a clear jab at Trump's recent legal woes, before being quickly removed by security. The buzz didn't die down easily. Whether one supported him or vehemently opposed him, the reality was clear. Trump's presence at the Kennedy Center created a cultural uproar. Adding to the controversy was the recent report from CNN that several cast members had considered boycotting the performance altogether. While it was never clear who exactly had planned to step back, Rick Grenell, a longtime Trump ally and the newly appointed head of the Kennedy Center, suggested those plans had fizzled. "That was a long time ago," he said, when asked if the cast followed through. Even so, the symbolic protest wasn't lost on Washington insiders. The Kennedy Center has long stood as an iconic, nationally celebrated space above the partisan noise. For decades, it hosted performances aimed at unifying audiences around art, not political affiliations. Trump's boardroom takeover, however, injected a heavy political element into the venue, with many questioning whether arts institutions should remain neutral ground. Enter Kamau Bell. The award-winning comedian and political commentator, known for weaving humor with justice, performed at the Kennedy Center just days after Trump's appearance. In an on-air conversation, Bell was asked to weigh in on the protests, the controversy, and what it meant to perform at a venue now entangled in politics. "Honestly, I had a better night at the Kennedy Center than Donald Trump did," Bell quipped. "Who would have thought?" Bell explained that many people view the Kennedy Center as a sanctified presidential space. But his view was different. It's not some regal monument. It's really just the most well-funded community center in the country. It serves the people of D.C., not the president. And D.C. is deeply blue, he emphasized. So no, it's not his home. It's theirs. His own choice to perform there came after reflection. Boycott or show up? That was the question. According to Bell, performing meant standing in front of people and delivering truth, even in uncomfortable spaces. If you told me Trump was definitely going to be at the show, I'd be even more committed to performing that night, he said. That's when voices like mine are needed most. Bell pointed to a recent trip to Virginia Tech, where he spoke at a memorial service for the late poet Nikki Giovanni. In attendance was the iconic activist ensemble Sweet Honey in the Rock, who famously refused to cancel shows in North Carolina during the anti-trans bathroom bill controversy, unlike Bruce Springsteen and others who withdrew in protest. They said, "We showed up for our people," Bell recalled. That message hit home. He discussed it with the group's founder, who told him artists must do what makes sense for themselves and for the communities they serve. For me, that means speaking truth directly to power. As a comedian, I'm not bound to a script like the cast of Les Mis. I don't have to stay silent. I stand on the First Amendment, and I use it every day, Bell said. His show, Who's With Me, isn't just a comedy tour, it's a mission. Bell has committed it to supporting local arts organizations, especially those left vulnerable by federal funding cuts under Trump's leadership. One major target of those cuts? The National Endowment for the Arts, NEA. The NEA cuts hurt everyone. Big institutions like the Berkeley Repertory Theater here in the Bay Area, and even more so, small, black and brown-led performance spaces, places that might depend on just a few $1,000s a year to stay open, Bell explained. When they lose that, it's devastating. That's why Bell is returning to the Berkeley Rep from June 17th to 22nd for a second series of shows, not for profit, but to help cover the gap left by defunded art grants. Look, I'm not a billionaire, he said. I can't write a $1 billion check, but I can show up and give my voice. And that's exactly what I plan to do. He smiled and added, I don't get a job at CNN because I'm a great journalist. I get a job because I know how to tell stories, because of the arts. In his signature dry humor, Bell proudly labeled himself, I consider myself the People's Chairman of the Kennedy Center, the People's Secretary of Education, and the People's President of the NEA, he said, laughing. I've got a lot of titles and a lot of kids to feed. So yeah, I wear a lot of hats. At the end of the day, Bell's voice captured the larger message. The arts should never be owned by the elite. Institutions like the Kennedy Center belong to the people, the performers, the audiences, the communities, not just to whoever sits at the top of the board. And as long as people like Kamau Bell continue to show up, the stage will remain a space for truth, spoken boldly, regardless of who's sitting in the audience.